Hi, this is Alice, and today I will be comparing and contrasting the development of South Korea and the United States over the last 110 years. In this video, we will be answering the question of how South Korea's rapid economic development in the 1960s, or an increase in GDP per capita, affected its life expectancy, fertility rate, and Gini index over time. Before we begin, let's start off with some basic definitions. GDP at purchasing power parity per capita is defined as the value of all final goods and services produced within a nation in a given year divided by the average mid-year population for the same year. Gini index, or the Gini coefficient, is meant to indicate the income distribution of a nation's residents. A Gini coefficient of 0 indicates perfect equality, while 1 indicates perfect inequality. Fertility rate is the average number of children that will be born per woman. Lastly, life expectancy is the average number of years a person born in a given country is expected to live if mortality rates were to remain constant in the future. The first major similarity between the US and South Korea was that life expectancy generally increased from the early 1900s to 1945 as GDP per capita increased. After Japan annexed South Korea in 1910, South Korea began to go through a rigorous modernization. New roads, railroads, telegraph lines, and schools were built. General healthcare also improved because the Japanese encouraged the development of Korean traditional medicine and called for traditional medical doctors in Seoul to train practitioners. Overall, public healthcare improved, increasing life expectancy. Similarly, in the US, during the Progressive Era, there were major reforms to improve water quality in urban areas and also efforts to provide universal health insurance. Due to these improvements in health-related sectors, along with industrial contributions from corporate giants like Carnegie and JP Morgan, overall life expectancy and GDP per capita was able to increase steadily during this time period. However, after the liberation of Korea in 1945, Korea's GDP per capita dropped significantly. For example, from $1,289 in 1944 to a mere $605 in 1945. This happened because during the Japanese colonization, Korean capital only had constituted a small percentage of capital invested in Korean industries, meaning that Korean industries had not actually financially developed, unlike the US, who was able to develop independently without any external foreign influence during this time. South Korea began developing rapidly starting from 1960 when Park Chung-hee became president. President Park gave many subsidies to chaebols, Korean conglomerates, allowing companies like Hyundai and Samsung to gain immense profits through exports and boost South Korea's GDP per capita. As Korea's economy drastically improved, life expectancy was able to improve because in 1977, President Park passed a law that mandated universal health insurance. Korea's rapid economic development also led to a decreasing fertility rate from 1960. According to Minja Kim Cho, a family and gender expert at the East-West Center, many educated women did not get married because they had already achieved financial independence on their own. Unlike South Korea, the US experienced a huge increase in fertility rate during the post-World War II baby boom from 1945 to 1961. This was mainly because the rich post-war government provided numerous benefits to soldiers returning home, such as the GI Bill of Rights, which allocated $13 billion to help soldiers pay for higher education, vocational training, medical treatment, and loans for building new houses. Also, the robust post-war economy encouraged many families to have more children. Finally, let's take a look at the modern era from 1990 to 2015. According to this Gini index graph from COSIS, the Gini coefficient for Korea's disposable income generally increased from 1990 to 2010, peaking around 1997 and 2008. Similarly, the Gini coefficient for US households peaked around 97, 2001, and 2006. The IMF crisis that erupted in Korea in 97 left a large portion of the middle-class population unemployed, leading to a significant wealth gap between the rich and poor. Similarly, the IMF crisis also affected the US, but not as much as the economic recession that occurred between late 2007 and 2008. When the financial bubble burst in 2008, the unemployment rate went up and many middle-class workers went to extreme poverty, while rising housing and equity prices also affected high-income earners, causing the wealth gap to increase between the middle and upper class. In conclusion, the successful economic development that South Korea and the US both experienced over time has led to a relatively stable government in both nations. After President Park Chung-hee's economic reforms, several democratic reforms occurred during Roh Moo-hyun's presidency that increasingly transformed Korea into a balanced democratic republic. Similarly, progressive political reforms that were aimed to eliminate government corruption, such as the direct election of senators, referendum, and recall, further legitimized the US government and made it much more democratic. Through these comparisons of economic development between the US and South Korea, it is clear that a strong economy ensures a stable government and political system, enabling a nation to live on successfully over time. Thank you for listening.